Okay. To start the discussion session, can I kindly request everyone to say sadhu, please?
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Katang bhavitani cha kundaliya tini sucharitani katang bahuli katani chattaro satipattane paripurenti. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So this verse, I think all of you should be able to remember now. It may have been in your memory since 2-3 months. So even today, 25th March, we are taking the same verse for the continuation of our talk. So it is coming from the Kundaliya Sutta, where the Blessed One meets this wanderer called Kundaliya, and he's asking a question, why are you living this life? And the Blessed One says, for the benefit and fruit of the knowledge and liberation. And he immediately asks, how can I develop that? Then he says, you will have to develop 7 factors of enlightenment. Then he goes on and asks, how do I do that? Then he says, 4 foundations of mindfulness. Then how do you develop 4 foundations of mindfulness? Develop the 3 good conducts. And how you develop 3 good conducts? First, restrain your sense faculties. So this was how we reached this stage where the Blessed One started telling him what to do. Now, Blessed One gave the descending order. Now he's going in the ascending order. How the faculties will be restrained, and then how that will lead to development of the 3 kinds of good conduct, and then how that will lead to 4 foundations of mindfulness. We have discussed these things in the previous sessions, and the key in that development is, as we discussed, and according to the suttas in the canon, as Buddha has mentioned, the mindfulness plays a big role. When mindfulness is not there, 3 good conduct will be done, will be maintained, will be developed, but without the support from the mind, maybe due to other reasons. So, but when 3 good conducts are developed with the help of mindfulness, then it has a lasting effect, lasting impact. So when you do that, your attention will be always in the 4 foundations of mindfulness, which is mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of the feelings, mindfulness of the mind, which we discussed in detail. Especially in the last couple of sessions, we discussed about being mindful of the mind. What the Blessed One says is, you will have to simply be aware when you have a lustful mind, and as well when you are free from lust. Similarly, when you have a hating mind, as well as mind free from hate. Similarly, deluded mind, undiluted mind, contracted mind, distracted mind, developed mind, undeveloped mind, and superior mind, and unsurpassed or unsuperior mind, and concentrated mind and unconcentrated mind, and liberated mind, unliberated mind. So whatever the mind that you have, you will have to simply observe, because it is a fluctuation of the same energy, and that fluctuation may be created by different forces, and accordingly the mind will convert into that energy will convert into that. If you have a lust, if you have a hatred, if you have a delusion, if you have a contraction of the mind, And if the mind is developing, all these are positive and negatives in the mind. The Blessed One says, no matter if it is negative, it will turn to positive, be aware of it. And at the same time, they will have positive minds that becomes negative as well. Just be aware of that as well. So in that manner, no matter what fluctuation it takes place, whether it's onto the plus or minus, what you are doing is you try to be with that energy, and you try not to identify yourself with that energy. Most of the time, what happens in the day-to-day activities is identify yourself with that energy, and then the world is built. Now, the Blessed One is teaching us how to move away from that world just by observing whatever happens. So today, we are going to the fourth foundation of the mind, the mindfulness of the mind objects, or the mindfulness of the phenomena, right? So there are five or six, I exactly don't remember, such phenomena or subtopics in the mindfulness of the phenomena. The first one is the five hindrances, which we all know. Five hindrances, if I just remind you, they are the sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, worry and flurry in the future or agitation. These are the hindrances. Sensual desire comes when we move away from the sensual objects. And when we move away from the sense faculties, the sensual desire will arise. So long as you are with the sense faculties, so long as you are with the sensual objects, you won't be able to see the sensual desire. And similarly, ill will, you will not be able to see ill will so long as you are with the sensual objects, and so long as you live a life of unlearned disciple. Unlearned disciple means disciple who has no knowledge of Dhamma, who is not practicing, who is not thinking in terms of Dhamma. So they won't be able to identify ill will. Similarly, sloth and torpor is an area that may be opened to the practitioners of mindfulness, or it may be practitioners of mindfulness, or even for the practitioners of concentration meditation also will have situations of sloth and torpor. Worry and flurry in the future is also something that will be there for those who are practicing, and also skeptical doubts maybe for those who practice. So I'm not going to go into much detail of that. And why we call hindrances, these are hindrances, because it hinders your achievement of final liberation. So this happened before Buddha. Before Buddha, they have been practicing mindfulness, and they have been not only practicing mindfulness, they have been, whether you like it or not, they have had full awareness as well. In other words, clear comprehension as well. When you practice mindfulness, naturally full awareness will be developed. It is something that comes as a byproduct of the mindfulness. But what happens is, there will have, unless you follow the instructions of the Buddha, unless you understand what exactly the Buddha has mentioned, then you don't know where the practice has to go. So this is what happened during pre-Buddha time. And there was no Buddha, and his teaching was not available. So the people practiced, and they went from first absorption to the second absorption to the third and up to the eighth absorption. And depending on their caliber, some stayed in the first absorption, they couldn't go any further. They started saying, sensual world is impermanent. Sensual world, I can move away from the sensual world, but the first absorption is permanent, and that is me, and that will be with me all the time. Similarly, those who can go to the second absorption said, sensual world as well as the first absorption is impermanent, but where I am is permanent, and this is me. And third absorption, the same thing, and so on and so forth. Those who can go to the eighth absorption, they said all the other previous absorptions are impermanent because I have practiced and I have passed those things and I have seen they have become impermanent for me. But this is the state I am in the eighth absorption, and that is permanent. And therefore, this is the thing that will be there forever. And they identify themselves with it. And the reason is the Buddha's word was not there. And when this happened to Buddha, when he was studying under Uddakaramaputra, after achieving the eighth absorption, Uddakaramaputra said, now I have 500 students. You take 250 and I'll take 250, and we both go ahead with our teaching. And then Buddha said, no, this has a friction. And I am King Satya Gavasi. I'm going away. What I am looking for is the truth. And there is no truth here. So what is the truth he found after moving away and after undergoing all these austere practices? What he finally found was, it's the same practice. There is no difference in the practice. But your mindset, your viewpoint, the way that you look at the practice has to change. So what did he change? He said, not just mindfulness. He said, keep the mindfulness to the fore at all times. He said, ujung kayang panidaya parimukang sating upattapetva. So when you keep the mindfulness to the fore at all times, then no matter where you go, you don't identify yourself with it. No matter what achievement it is, you simply try to maintain the awareness of where you are. So that is the teaching of the Buddha. So when you do that, what happens is you can start seeing the hindrances. So before Buddha, they did not see hindrances because they were having their attention to the object. And since they were all the time considering the object as permanent and object as me, and when they were holding on to the object, there is no opportunity for the sense desire to arise. And there is no opportunity for the ill will to arise. Similarly, sloth and torpor, worry and flurry in the future, and the skeptical doubts were not coming out. So they thought that they have achieved because none of these things are coming. But what happens is they are not eradicated, but they are suppressed. So the blessed one was able to understand that even before become a Buddha. He had that caliber. That is why he perfected over 4 eons. We call it in Sinhala Sara Sankhya Kalpa Lakshya. 4 eons or 400 eons. I don't know the quantification of it, whatever it is. Long time he perfected. And the power of that perfection only let him realize that even at this stage, even at the eighth absorption, there is a friction. And we didn't know the answer, but he just went and kept on practicing different ways. And then finally, you know the story, you know what you have learned in Dhamma school. So I'm not going to teach all the austere practices he has gone through and how he came to the middle path. And I found that But what he presented, gifted the world, was this keeping the mindfulness to the fore. So when you keep the mindfulness to the fore, you don't hang on to anything. So everything that was suppressed in the past is coming out. The sense, desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, worry and flurry, all these things are coming out. What did Buddha say? He said, keep the mindfulness to the fore. So therefore, once you have gone through the body, once you have gone through the feelings, once you have gone through your mind, you don't think that you have completely changed. Only thing that has changed is you will be the same old person. But only thing that is changed is you have learned the art of not reacting. You have learned the art of not being part of it. So if you are not being part of it, the things will happen as it is. But you have the ability just to, duck them. And therefore, in Four Foundations of Mindfulness, the Blessed One says, a monk abides contemplating mind objects as mind objects in respect of the five hindrances. How does he do so? There's here, monks, if sensual desire is present in himself, a monk knows that it is present. If sensual desire is absent in himself, a monk knows that is absent. And he knows unreason sensual desire comes to arise. And he knows how the abandonment of arisen sensual desire comes about. And he knows how the non-arising of the abundant sensual desire in the future will come about. So this is what happens. So what this says is, you are simply observing, but the mind is working the way it is used to work. Mind brings out sensual desires, and you see that. Of course, you have gone through lustful mind and mind free of lust, but that does not mean that is the end. This mind means mind is always having these things. Even for Buddha, just about to cross the Ganges of sensuality, the three daughters of Mara came, started singing, dancing, and doing all sorts of things to get his attraction. Tanha Rati Ranga. But he had perfected what should be perfected. What he has perfected was, when the sensual desire arises, he simply is aware that sensual desire is arising. So he is mindful, keeping the mindfulness to the fore. And then he is not fighting with it. And when it gradually reduces and when it is absent, he just not take the mind off. He becomes aware that mind is not having sensual desire. Sensual desire is absent in his mind. So when that happens, the mindfulness is continuing, mindfulness is flowing. And at the same time, when he is not having, when the sensual desire is absent in himself, and then he can slowly see that an unarisen sensual desire is about to arise. And he doesn't stop that. And he sees that it is arising gradually, like a flower is blooming. It's gradually, petals are being spreaded and the flower is starting to bloom. So like that, he can see, because his mindfulness is so steady and mindfulness is kept to the fore, he can see his unarisen sensual desire arises. And not only that, he says he knows how the abandonment of arisen sensual desire comes about. And when the sensual desire is there, he keeps the mindfulness to the fore, then he can see how it gradually subsides, how it is mentally subsiding, how it is physically subsiding. So he sees how it happens, and he sees why it happens. Simply because you are keeping the attention and keeping the awareness, and therefore you are not becoming part of it, since you are not becoming a part of it, you don't add the next stage. When it has come, you don't react. If you react, another mind will start, and then it will keep going. So if you think, oh my goodness, the sensual desire is arising, I will have to some or other get rid of it. So then the sensual desire becomes more and more stable and established in your system. But instead, you 100%, very honestly, face to face, you just go and meet it and observe. And when you observe, you can see how the enemy is flying away, how the enemy is running away. And not only that, and he knows how the non-arising of the abundant sensual desire in the future will come about. Once this is mastered for some time, then his mind is going to a very deep layer, and he's able to see as soon as there is a trigger to arise a sensual desire. So when that trigger, or when your sensitivity level is so deep down in the mental process, a sensual desire is unable to arise, because once it starts arising, you start feeling it. As soon as you feel it, it cannot arise, because you are keeping guard of your mind. So therefore, he knows how non-arising of the abundant sensual desire. Sensual desire is abundant and it is not arising in the future. That is because he keeps the mindfulness to the fore. So in this manner, this happens when you progress in the path. Of course, someone who has attained the first stage of enlightenment may not see the last one. He may be able to see the first two or the third one, but not the fourth and the fifth. In the sense, he may not be able to see. He knows how the abundance of arising sensual desire comes about, and he will not definitely not know how the non-arising of the abundant sensual desire will happen in the future. Because still, although he has attained the first stage, there are three more stages to go. So of course, an arahant will definitely know non-arising of the abundant sensual desire. So until such time, sensual desire will chase you. So don't think it's simply because you practice, simply because you have certain level of achievement, that sensual desire is gone forever. No, it keeps chasing you, and having that sensual desire is your what you call the test. That sensual desire must arise in order to see whether you are still a victim of it. Unless it arises, you don't know what sort of achievement you may have. So therefore, sensual desire is not all bad. So far as the practitioner is concerned, it is giving you a gauge of where you are going and how you are going. So I'm not trying to flatter and recommend that you must continue your sensual desire. When you practice it, it will naturally subside, naturally reduce, naturally depreciate, but may not be completely gone. So when you don't have sensual desire, don't overestimate that as well. So at any point in time, if you overestimate, then at any point in time, it will come and pin you down. So therefore, this sensual desire, you will be able to see all the facets of sensual desire when you are keeping the mindfulness to the fore. So seeing the facets of sensual desire, when it is there, when it is absent, when it is absent, when it is arising, and when it is abandoning, and when it is never arising, all the facets you will be able to see just because of one thing, which is keeping the mindfulness to the fore. So it is, in other words, what I want to tell you is Man has not changed so far as the thinking is concerned, but he has changed so far as the attitude is concerned. Thinking goes in the same direction, but you see what is going in the mind, you see the mind objects, you are not becoming a part of it. So that is the beauty of the teaching of the Blessed One. So it is not only for sensual desire. I just took sensual desire and explained here. It's the same story for ill will, same story for sloth and torpor. So once you move away from sensual desire and ill will, the practitioner will have sloth and torpor. He will be dowsing all the time, can't keep the head up because no sensual desire, no hatred. So you will be feeling sleepy, lethargic, monotonous, bored, and all sorts of miserable things will be felt. And when that happens, that's a long way in the practice, because you have challenged, attacked sensual desire and the ill will to a great extent. So this is why this lethargy is coming up. So you think when that happens, things are all going bad. So it's not going bad. Blessed One says it is the next step, and don't suppress that by some or other taking your attention to the breath, or taking your attention to a feeling, or taking your attention to what trying. Some people are trying to see what goes in the mind when this is there. No, you don't do anything as such. When you're walking, you don't take your attention, you don't try to take your attention to the sole of the feet or anything as such. You simply, if you are feeling sleepy or if you are falling sleepy, you try to be mindful of that. So it is it is a scenario which most of the people cannot fathom, because when you are sleepy or when you are falling asleep, you cannot be mindful. You cannot be aware of it. Sleepy means the awareness gradually vanishes. But the technique of the Buddha, Blessed One, and he is called the awakened one, he knows the art of awakening into even these things. So what he says is, just see the pre conditions before falling asleep, and be ready, be prepared, and be as close as possible, be as intense as possible, and observe how you fall asleep. So when you observe how you feel asleep, you can go through that as well. And that does not mean that it is ever forever, but it will happen again. But since you have now gone through that, you will be able to know that it is happening again. And then you will feel, and some people are able to see, they know, they say that I know I am not sleeping, but I am sleeping. So that is because they are mindful while they are in sloth and torpor. And they are also aware when they are coming out. And they can also be aware when it is starting to fall. So this is what we call Dhammanupassana, or be mindful of the phenomena. So these are phenomena, nothing else. These are not. This is how it has to happen. If the practice is going in the right direction. So similarly, worry and flurry about the future, that is also something that happens once you gradually start going through the sloth and torpor. Since you are now slowly awakening from the lethargy, since you are slowly awakening from the deeper layers of delusion, this is one facet of the delusion. Then you will be, since you are awakened, you will start being bit agitated. You want to quickly finish it off, or you will be worried about that I should have had this bit earlier, or I should be able to give this to my people or my family. Or so you will start seeing the benefit of the practice, and you start worrying that you weren't able to do these things in the past. So both, because your mind now shifts between past and the future, because you are open. Since your mind is open, you start seeing things, that the miserable things that you have done in the past. So you start worrying about it, or else you may try to be as quick as possible and try to see each and every breath, and try to see each and every movement of your foot, try to see each and every movement of the mind. So in that manner you agitate yourself, and you try to become part of the agitation. So instead, the blessed one says what he says is, this worry and agitation is the same thing, same coin, but just the two sides. So you just take a step back and simply keep observing that these are happening in your mind. Don't get involved, and you have that ability, since you have come past the body, come past the mind, come past the feelings, and you have also, to a certain extent, gone through the ill will, sloth and torpor, and sensual desire. So therefore, your weapon is so sharp. So even here, although initially you might get involved in it, and when your report gets clarified, and or sometimes you yourself may feel, no, I'm getting too much involved in it, I should get aside and let things move, and I should simply become an observer. So when that happens, worry and flurry in the future is not a question. Similar, the skeptical doubts. So when these things are happening, when your practice is getting gradually sharp, and when you are gradually starting to now, when you go through the hindrances, now it gradually opens up the path of the blessed one. Now you are almost there. You have gone through 4 types of hindrances. Now at this stage you will have billions of questions to challenge the blessed one and his teaching and the sangha. So that those skeptical doubts will play a major role in getting you to the next step, in getting you to the path of the Buddha. So today, 2 people came to offer dana and had the Buddha Anumodana session, the Dhamma discussion. And what they started saying was, what happens in the Buddhist world? And that is because they are questioning, they are doubtful of what the teaching is. They simply see the teaching from whatever that can be seen. I'm not saying whether it is good or bad. What I'm simply trying to say is, we create doubts ourselves about the teaching by seeing things, and you don't actually get into the practice and then start doing it yourself. You just keep doubting. And even if you practice, now here it's a situation when someone who is practicing, all of a sudden mind will say, will this be really true? Is there really something called nirvana? Or is Buddha really an arahant? Or can there be people who is really arahant? Are there people really practicing nowadays, and are there people really achieved these days? And all sorts of questions will come. And then ask, then if you have achieved, tell me how you feel it and what it is, and all sorts of things. And they keep challenging. That is because they have come to the gate of the Buddha's path, but never crossed never crossed. And this is a situation that has to be very carefully handled. So the Buddha has very carefully handled that and has given the weapon. Just be aware. These are also things that are being generated by your own mind. These are mind objects. These are the bombs and the weapons the mind is having to put you away from the practice. So therefore, when those things are appearing, simply be aware. So therefore, they will not stand a chance. So this is what the Blessed One taught us in in being mindful of the mind objects or the phenomena. So that's the first one. The second one is, again, he says, the second mind object is the five aggregates. We know five clinging aggregates. They are form, feelings, perceptions, mental formations or mental volitions, and the consciousness. So, form, as we know, our body and up to the elements. So I'm not going to go into detail of those things, which we have done plenty of times in the past. And these four elements are not just elements. They are, these five aggregates are not just aggregates. They are also called clinging aggregates. Clinging aggregates means when these things appear, when the form appears, the feelings appear, or anything else appear of the five aggregates, we don't accept it as it is. We want it in a particular way. So when we demand a particular way, what it simply says is mind is clinging onto a particular pattern. Mind is clinging onto a particular shade of the aggregates. So therefore, they are called clinging aggregates. So the beauty of the teaching is that although you have practiced, although your practice has developed into a stage of observing the clinging aggregates, don't think the clinging aggregates are completely gone. Clinging aggregates will be there. Only thing that happens is, since he is keeping the mindfulness to the fore, he will simply observe that. And what he says is, a monk abides contemplating or observing the mind objects as mind objects in regard to the five aggregates of grasping, which means clinging. How does he do so? Form, he says, such is, the monk knows, such is form, such the arising of form, such the disappearance of form. So let me take it a bit deeper. In all the sections of contemplation or the being mindful of the body, being mindful of the body is the being mindful of the form. So when you observe your breath, and as most of you have experienced, your breath gradually subsides and it comes to a stage where you don't feel your breath. But although you don't feel your breath, your attention is firmly in the body, and you start feeling the body. When you start feeling the body, at one or the other point, you may start seeing the goosebumps. You may start seeing the vibrations in the body. So when you see the vibrations, and if you let it happen and you keep observing it for some time, then you will see this, you will be able to see these vibrations bit more closer. And then you identify things appear and disappear. So this is what happens when you master the form, when you master the body. So I'm sure most of you have experience or have your practice developed to a such state. So therefore, when you keep the mindfulness to the fore, and if you simply allow that to happen, you see the arising of the form and at the same time disappearance of the form. And that is what is happening when you keep the mindfulness to the fore. And the Blessed One says, when the forms appears, he says he becomes aware that this is form. And he becomes aware the form when the form is arising. And it is not It is not waiting, taking long time to arise and taking long time to disappear. It happens then and there very fast. But this practitioner is so firm and just keeping and just observing it and let anything happen. So he's not, there is no signpost saying such is form, such is arising of the form, such is disappearance of the form. Only thing he sees is, he very clearly see things are moving, things are vibrating, and things are like a boiling rice pot or boiling water, or maybe like the water falling on a pond. It just sees that movement. So the blessed one says, when you see that, it's like a lump of foam. Should be able to remember in Penapintupama Sutta, Foam Sutta, this observation of this scenario is called a lump of foam. So this situation is what you observe when it comes to mind objects. So the form has become a mind object now, no longer a form as such, because earlier it was not a form. Earlier it was a body. Earlier it was a hand. Earlier it was a head. Earlier it was legs and chest and all sorts of things. But now, since you have gone through that, and you don't see even the elements, you don't see earth element, air element, and all that, and you just see some shape, some manner, some physicality, and that physicality is also just moving up and down. It's just atomic particles, like if I may use the word, and that is the nature, and that is the phenomena. And similarly, he says the same thing for the other aggregate. So when you observe this, you are not clinging onto it. And similarly, you have the same thing for feelings. Similarly, you have the same thing for perceptions and mental formations and consciousness. The feelings, when the feelings appear, when you have this form, and after some time, you may feel the heat of it. You may feel the serenity of it. It's the same thing, but there will have some mental input to it. So you will see when that mental input comes. So I have pleasant feeling, I have unpleasant feeling, or I have a neutral feeling, and he becomes aware of it, and then he sees slowly arising, and he sees the disappearance of the feelings as well. Similarly, perception, and then he starts seeing all sorts of perceptions, all sorts of shapes and manners are coming in the mind. People that you have never seen, animals that you have never seen, places that you have never been to will come into your mind, and you simply see that it is a perception, and just become aware, and that it is arising, and then even before arise it passes away. They don't stay much longer. But if you cling on to it, then you can go a long way in the samsara, and that is what happened before Buddha. And mental formations also, when the mind is so subtle, there will have billions and billions of suggestions from the mind. Do this, do that, go there, do here, read that book, read this book, and refer this to that sutta, relate this to this sutta, how this happens in Abhidhamma. No sorts of mental suggestions, formations, proposals will come. But you will be like a rock if you are observing, if you are keeping the mindfulness to the fore, and if you are mindful of the mind objects. So you simply observe all these things as things are appearing in the mind, simply thoughts, and you will observe in such a manner, and you will see them arising and passing away even faster than perception. And then you will see some energy in the body. Now, nothing, you have not been clinging on to anything, not to the form, not to the feelings, not to the perceptions, not to the mental formations. Then you will feel some sort of an energy that is in the body. So that is consciousness. and you observe that, and that it is consciousness, and you see that it arises sometimes and then it goes away. So when you write the report, and don't write this in your reports, I don't accept now, people say, my attention go to breath, and then it slowly disappears, and then my attention goes to feelings, and then it slowly disappears, and then thoughts are coming, and it slowly disappears, and then I fall sleepy, and I don't know where I am, and then again I feel that I am waking up, and then again I go to breath, again to feelings, again to thoughts, again to sleepiness, and they just keep writing like that. This is exactly what happens when you are keeping the mindfulness to the fore, and this is how you go through your aggregates. When you feel the breath, that is form, and it is not the real form that I mentioned here, because you identify that as breath, but it is part of rupa, right? So therefore, you see the breath appears, and then you see the feelings appears, and at the same time disappears, and you feel the thoughts are appearing, perceptions and mental formation, and then you see that everything goes away, and you go to nowhere, and then suddenly it gets energized, and then that energy again forms into breath. Or some people don't feel the breath, and they just feel the vibrations of the body. So that's the real form. So in this manner, and when this is happening, that is Dhammanupassana. That is the being mindful of the phenomena. That is being mindful of the mental object. So we just because we practiced, just because we have been mindful, we haven't changed at all. Our attentions will be with the aggregates. But now, if you keep the mindfulness to the fore in this manner, your clinging will gradually fade away. You will be with your aggregates, but not clinging. But if someone says, I'm trying my level best to hold my breath, or I'm trying my level best to have my attention to the breath, then that is wrong. It is not Buddha. What Buddha says is, let anything happen, and all these things should appear and disappear. And if you allow that to happen, then you are with the Buddha. If when you are clinging on to one particular thing, either the feeling, it may be, or the form, or anything else, then you are gradually building clinging from the practice. That is what happened before Buddha. That is how they got stuck in absorptions. And in the discourse called Brahmajala Sutta, the net of Brahmas, there are 62 ways people are stuck in the form world, in the feelings world, in the perception world, in the formation world, and in the consciousness world. And the Blessed One is saying there are basically four ways how they will get stuck. One, when they have the form or any of the other four, they say it is permanent. And when you keep on observing that, that fades away, as we all know. The breath disappears. And with that disappearing, if he is there for some time, or for quite some time, not just some time, then he may form the opinion that disappearance of form is permanent. Repeating it, disappearance of form is permanent, but appearance of form is impermanent. And then after some time, he sees the form starts to appear and be there for some time and disappear. Again starts to appear, be there for some time and disappear. Then he starts saying, appearance of the form is impermanent, disappearance of the form is impermanent, and appearance and disappearance of the form is permanent. And then this gets intensified, and it goes to a stage where you can't say whether it is there or not. And then he says, the previous three are impermanent, now this is permanent. So like that, these four ways of identifying yourself, either with the form, feelings, perceptions, or mental formations and consciousness, took the or bound the practitioners to the net of samsara. It is not just the net of samsara, it is the net of the Brahma world. The practitioners are getting hooked up into the Brahma world in this manner, in these 4 ways for the 5 aggregates. So there are 20 ways, 4 into 5, that you might get hooked up. So blessed one, in an exceptional, unbelievable manner, gave this wonderful weapon of keeping the mindfulness to the fore. So when you keep the mindfulness to the fore, you never build your tent. You never park your car in any place. Just keep moving, just keep moving, just keep observing. So this is the beauty of Dhamma. This is why this Dhamma cannot be taught to each and everybody. There should have a special type of intelligence to understand this teaching. If you are trying to see the rationale behind it, and some of the things cannot be verified unless you really practice and go into a certain layers of your practice. So therefore, the Blessed One said, it is not easy to come out of this samsara. So therefore, practice is imperative, and not just imperative. If you want real happiness, to go beyond the net of the Brahmas, you will have to keep the mindfulness to the fore. So may you all be able to keep your mindfulness to the fore and come out of this suffering samsara. Blessings of the Triple Gem to all of you.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu.
Everyone, Sarana.
Uh,
Good. Any questions? Any discussion points?
We have this report that we can present.
Yes, please.
Okay, let's just see if this works. I can't. Are you able to make me co-host or allow for sharing?
Yes, I can. Done.
My question is about observation.
Can
So
you
I
increase the
have
volume?
learned to observe, to watch, to pay attention.
One second, one second. That says.
My question is about
Can you hear that?
observation.
Is it loud
Very
enough?
volume.
That's the loudest I can do. Hold on. Let me try on my phone. Okay, I'll stop sharing.
So I have learned to observe, to watch, to pay attention. And for example, when anger is happening, I say, okay, I'm going to observe it now. And I see that the moment I say I'm going to observe it, there is a conflict between the anger and me who is trying to observe, because I say the moment I say I'm going to observe this anger, I am looking for a result, for an outcome, to go to reach somewhere, you know. And that really wastes so much energy. And there is now another thing, which anger is happen, and there is observation without conflict, without division, without me and anger. There is just observation, whatever it is, thought, emotion, feeling, sensation, and there is only observation. But the challenge is that I can't do it. I can't make myself to observe and not to be in this division. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't make it happen. Like, there is anger happening, and I say, now I want this to be only observation and not me and anger. I can't do it. Like, this is not possible. But I see when there is me and anger, there is ongoing fight. This is trying to control the anger. When the moment you say, I'm going to observe it now, it means you're going to control it. So I want to know, how is it, what to do when you see this also, that you can't, not can't, you can't make it possible to be one with anger. Or if it's possible, how to do it?
Okay. No, it's I'm not quite sure whether you really saw the question and the answer both in the report. What you are simply saying is, in this scenario, you are trying to observe, and also there is an instance where observation happens. So this is the scenario. If you try to intentionally observe, then you are going to make a soup out of it. If you allow the observation to happen unintentionally, then it keeps happening. So you mentioned there is a situation where there is no conflict as well, only observation. So you have that skill. But what happens is, since you know the skill is there, since you know that this skill is useful, you are trying to do it. When you try to do it, the very same thing that the observation should do will vanish. What the observation will do is not doing anything. So if you try to observe, then not doing will turn into doing, and you create me. And when you create me, you create a conflict between me and whatever you are trying to observe. So therefore, when you know anger, you have already observed. Since you can say it is anger, you have already observed. So there is no trying to be bit smart. You simply let anger be there and you get to another side. Don't take me there. As soon as you take me, you're going to spoil it. And you said many times, I am going to observe and I'm going to make it happen. And you say you can't make it happen. You can't make it happen. It happens, especially at this stage. Appearance of anger means your attention is now in the mind. You're past the stage of the body observation, not 100%, but to some extent. You pass the stage of feelings observation, again not in full, but to some extent. Now the constituents of the mind is coming up. Ingredients of the mind is coming up. So when the ingredients of mind is coming up, you will have to be even more unintentional. You should let the mind play and don't get mentally involved in it. You don't try to create any purposeful, any intentional, either physical, verbal, or mental activity. Because your observation is now sharp, because you have gone through the gross layers before the mind. So therefore, you should not do this. And why it happens is also because the practice is improving. So when you have the grip of observation, that is what we just discussed today in the phenomenon section. There is an item called hindrance called flurry in the future or agitation. Now you are a bit more agitated to ensure that you become mindful in each and everything. And so because of that agitation, you are creating an expectation and you are creating a conflict. But the beauty is, when you know that you have created a conflict, you become aware of that as well, because all this is done by the mind. This flurry in the future or the agitation is also part of the mind. So you had anger, you tried to observe, and that created agitation. Now, now I am is the agitation, that conflict. So you observe that conflict. Now you are conflicting the conflict. And these things should happen. Then only we will be able to understand how our mind is trying to put us down, to trip us over, right? And so therefore, this is not something strange. This is the nature of the mind. So you are seeing all those facets of the mind, and you also have the ability to neutrally observe. So become a neutral observer, maintain choiceless awareness. When it is anger, yes, it is anger, I'm simply observing. Don't try to, buckle up and be ready and become like a warrior to fight. Then intentional activities will come into the picture, and that will spoil the clarity of your observation. If at all, what you should do is slowly label it as anger. That's all. I'm not saying it is also necessary, because you have the ability to simply observe. Hope this makes sense. Right. Any other questions from anybody else? Peter, you want to say something?
No, thank you. I was just listening, learning enough from just trying to learn and listen. Thank you.
Right. Good.
Thank you, Dharan
So,
Saranai.
Teruvan Saranai. So then, even today, the meritorious deed that we have accumulated can be shared with the rest of the universe. So can I request Chatu and Kusal? Do you have the paper, or do you want me to share?
You have the paper.
Good. So for the benefit of Peter, I will share it. Okay. Over to you, Chatu.
May all devas share this merit which we have thus accumulated for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness and prosperity. May all other beings share this merit which we have thus accumulated for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness and prosperity. May all the beings share this merit which we have thus accumulated for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness and prosperity. May all beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, having shared this merit, long protect the dispensation. May all beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, having shared this merit, long protect the teaching. May all beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, having shared this merit, long protect me and others. If by deed, speech, or thought, heedlessly I have done any wrong, forgive, O Master, O Victor, greatly wise. If by deed, speech, or thought, heedlessly I have done any wrong, forgive, O Dhammas, to be seen here and now, timeless. If by deed, speech, or thought, heedlessly I have done any wrong, forgive, O Sangha, practice well the incomparable. Let this merit accrue to our departed relatives, and may they be happy. Let this merit accrue to our departed relatives, and may they be happy. Let this merit accrue to our departed relatives, and may they be happy. By the grace of this merit that I have acquired, may I never follow the foolish, but only the wise up to the time I attain Nibbana. By the grace of this merit that I have acquired, may I never follow the foolish, but only the wise up to the time I attain Nibbana. By the grace of this merit that I have acquired, may I never follow the foolish, but only the wise up to the time I attain Nibbana. Sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.